Kids fought. We got some tough dudes on our team, some real serious competitors, and that was a competitive win. It wasn't pretty. It probably wasn't as ugly as the Texas game in some respects, but you had to fight for everything, and that's what you get when you play a Chris Beard team. So hats off to him and his staff. They make you earn everything you get. And here we are with 2 overtime wins against them. And obviously at any point that could swing the other way. So I'm proud of our kids for not, hanging their heads, tucking their tails and running from the adversity we faced there early in the second half, but bowing their necks and going out there, keep swinging. And I'm thankful for the win because everyone in this league is an extremely valuable one.
They both referenced one of your terms, competitive stamina. So in overtime today, Texas Tech was 2 for 10 from the field. If you go back to that Texas game, Texas in overtime was 0 for 12 from the field. So that means your last 2 opponents in overtime, both of whom were ranked in the top 15 in the country, are a combined 2 for 22. What does competitive stamina mean to you, and how does it apply in these type of situations? What does it actually look like?
It's actually a pretty simple term. I just give it a fancy name so it sounds good. But it's really just about playing harder for longer. And every guy on our team gets to a point where they think they don't have any more to give. And what I tell them is, find it. Go find it. Go find some more to give to your team. That's what competitive stamina is. Right when you think you might break, dig down a little bit deeper and think about the guy next to you and what he needs from you at that moment. And, Isaac Likely, who I didn't know what to expect from, he leads us in competitive stamina. And he is no question the heart and soul of our team. But we got some other guys coming along now. Avery Anderson starting to get into that category up there. Bryce Williams and Rondell Walker. But there's no question that the guy who sparked us tonight was a guy who hadn't played much the last couple of weeks, in Keelan Boone. His minutes were tremendous from an energy standpoint. You look at the stat sheet and try to figure out why. If you didn't watch the game, you don't know why I would say that. But if you were in that game, you know that when he came in, the tide turned.
Very good. Members of the media, if you have a question for Oklahoma State head coach Mike Boynton, please click raise hand and we'll try and get to everybody. Our first question is going to come from Frank Bonner from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, Mike, I was going to ask you about Keelan. He hadn't scored for you guys since the Baylor game, and he scores arguably the most important 5 points of the game. For a player who hadn't scored much, what does that say just about his mental grit to be able to come in and do what he was able to do for you guys today?
First, obviously give the kid a lot of credit because it can become discouraging this time of year when you haven't been involved game-wise. But to his credit, he's probably had his 5 best practices of his career leading into this game since we played last. And I always talk to those guys about the work wins. And it's hard to believe that when you don't see that opportunity in front of you. Well, tonight he was needed. And his number was called and he was ready. But the only way he was ready is because he prepared the right way and he was in the right mental space. So I'm extremely proud of him, but I'm also proud of his teammates because no one castigated him. No one pushed him aside. No one told him to, go away. They just continued to encourage him. And, for a couple of days in practice this week, he was one of our best players. And, he just had to wait his turn. And when the opportunity came, he was ready to go. And I'm proud of him for doing it.
And how big was Avery for you guys? Not just down the stretch, but during that 15-0 run that got you guys back in it.
Yeah, Avery in a lot of ways was the most important player on the court because he had to do it on both ends for a pretty long period of time. We stuck him on McClung, and he guarded him. He made it hard for him to catch it. Late in regulation, he was the reason McClung didn't get a great shot off. And he obviously was also making a lot of plays, getting to the rim and scoring for us. He's just becoming a really, really good player. He's rounding his game into some more constructive form. He's playing much more under control. He's playing with a lot of confidence, and I'm happy to see it.
And then when Cade goes out and Texas Tech is in the midst of their run, what did you see from your players in that moment?
Well, we just talked about, can we hold it down defensively enough? Can our defense help us get some easy baskets? Because going up into that, we hadn't scored for a while. And now he comes out, and he's really looking around like, where the guy's going to get points from? Well, we had to do it with our defense. Our defense sparked us. We got some easy baskets in transition. Obviously, we talked about Keelan's 3 kind of breaking the ice. And our guys just never let our offense or lack of offense stop us from competing on the defensive end. And we did that for 45 minutes today.
Our next question comes from Jacob Unruh from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jacob. Jacob, will come right back to you. Our next question will come from Marshall Scott from Pistols Firing. Go ahead, Marshall.
I think the guys in the arena are having some issues.
Yeah, everyone's falling off here. So I'll tell you what, I know Barry is from home, so let's try with Barry Trammell. Barry, you there?
He's on mute. Barry's on mute.
Barry, can you hear us?
Okay, now I'm off. Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Hey, yeah, Mike, it's a great win to be down like you were, and Cade gets 4 fouls and come back and take and catch him without him and then win down the stretch. But at some point, what can you do to keep him out of foul trouble? Because that's not ideal, I don't think.
Oh, definitely not ideal. It's hard. So his 4th foul was probably the one that he actually earned the most. He actually pushed the guy off in the post. He's got to know at that point he can't make that play. The other one on the drive, it could go either way. The thing about it is in game, Barry, you just got to adjust. We went zone there when we brought him back in with 4, and that kind of protected him a little bit. He played a lot of the game with 4 fouls, but we just had to get him off the court because it was so early in the half that we couldn't have him foul out with 15 minutes to go.
You beat Tech twice with him in foul trouble. He fouled out. I forgot how much time in overtime in Lubbock, and you went ahead and won. Is that really encouraging to know that if you have to play without him, not only can you survive, but you can be really competitive and take care of good teams?
Yeah. I mean, we won a game on the road without him playing at all this year. And so, I like to think that we have a really good team. And I know Kay gets all the hype, and he deserves it because he's a great player. But we got some other guys who I think are just kind of flying under the radar that are having some really good years. Avery Anderson being at the top of that list. Under Walker's contributions, I'm not sure anybody outside of this building expected him to contribute much for us at all. He didn't have his best game today, but he's been a really solid contributor for us. Caleb Boone's evolution is really the thing that's kind of separated us here the last couple of weeks because he's been rock solid on both ends of the court.
Caleb's energy too today in overtime on the glass. You talk about competitive stamina, being a rebounder, that's being a tough guy. And for him, it seemed like he got every rebound in overtime.
Yeah, he went and got him with 2 hands. He was setting good screens and getting to the rim. And in the second half, he stepped up there and made some big free throws for us.
Very good. Our next question is going to come from Dean Rule from the O'Colly. Go ahead, Dean.
Hey, Coach, you kind of talked about it already a little bit, just with Caleb's evolution right there. But can you just maybe talk a little bit about what he's going to mean come Big 12 tournament time and even NCAA tournament time?
It's a long ways away. There's a lot of daylight between now and then, but we just need as many guys that are with us to be playing this time of year. We've always prided ourselves in getting better over the course of the season, and his progress is evidence that we keep preaching that message. And it doesn't matter how we did today. Tomorrow we want to be better. Next week we want to be better than we are this week. This week we want to be better than we were last week. And if we can continue that both individually and collectively, once the time comes for tournaments, then I feel like we'll have a chance to make a run.
Thank you, Mike.
Our next question comes from Dylan Buckingham from KFOR. Go ahead, Dylan.
Hey, Mike, it's actually Nate Fakin logged under Dylan's name. Your reaction after the game.
Good teammate.
Your reaction after the game at half court is blowing up already on social media and that kind of thing. What did this mean to you, and what were you feeling in that moment?
Well, what this means to me is there's so much going into us doing this right now, and these kids have played incredibly hard amidst a lot of adversity. I don't want to share too much personal information, but this pandemic's still going on. It's affected a lot of the kids on our team, not personally, but some people that they know. And so to watch them go out and compete the way they did amidst it all, and to see that our fans respond, and again, I said this before, I'm not sure that anybody has maximized the capacity that they have the way we have this year. And a lot of that credit goes to our students. They've been incredibly energetic and engaged with us all year. And I'm just happy that they feel like these kids are playing hard and representing them. And so I'm happy to see the success. The win means a lot, but the engagement from a community-wide standpoint between the students, our local fans, the people who drive in from Oklahoma City or Tulsa, is just encouraging to where we can really take this program long-term.
Our next question comes from Frank Bonner from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Frank.
We're on one computer here, so this question is from Jacob.
Okay.
That's what we call being good teammates right there. That's making it work.
Teamwork. Mike, and the defense tonight, you guys played really well down the stretch. What did you think of the defense?
I thought it was one of our best defensive performances. We obviously knew McClung's a load to handle because he's so quick and he can get off a shot and he can make hard shots. The thing about McClung is you can't get discouraged when he makes a shot that's really, really difficult, because he does that to everybody. And because if you get discouraged, then you give him an easy one, and now he gets rolling. We never let him really get comfortable. Everything he got tonight was challenged, but I thought we did a good job rebounding the ball. And I thought we did a good job just containing those guys off the dribble as much as possible. They did a really good job of trying to jump stop and get you in the air. And I thought for the most part, we stayed on the ground and didn't go too many shot fakes. So I thought we played with a lot of discipline on the defensive end today.
And I apologize if someone's asked you about this, but your celebration afterwards with the fans, what was that like?
This is who this is about. And it really was mostly, and this is no disrespect to our older fans because I love them too, but our students mean so much to the culture and the energy in our program. These kids are their classmates, the guys that play on the team, and to see them show up and support them the way they have. And again, I said this before, even when we were on break, I remember our game versus West Virginia, our students were incredible. And, I'm just so thankful that they've been so engaged with this group and that they feel like they're a part of it. And I hope that they feel like that this is a special time to be at Oklahoma State, to be a student here. And I hope our fans feel like this is a special time to support the basketball program here, because I think somebody on the TV said that like 70 of our 74 points were scored by freshmen and sophomores. I think that's right. Like, I know K's leaving, right? But there's a lot of other guys out there that aren't leaving. And there's a lot to be proud of and look forward to for this program for years to come.
And can you talk about the shirt you wore tonight and what that means to you?
Yeah, so the head coach at Cal State Fullerton. His name is Dedrick Taylor. He's a good friend of mine. We've developed a friendship, and he's the one who came up with the idea. As Black coaches, we've gotten together several times throughout the pandemic, and wanted to do something to honor the guys that are in the game now, with an ode on the front of the shirt to Coach Thompson and what he believed in. So it has the name of every current Black head coach in the country. Because so much of this, and I'm doing it myself, we talk about what's happened in the past. But there's some guys making Black history right now that are having great impacts at different universities all over the country. And so an opportunity to give those guys some acknowledgement was a great opportunity for me, because I feel very responsible for being a part of helping them have success. I need, when we don't play them, for Shaka Smart to win. I need Quanzo Martin to have success. I need Mike Anderson at St. John's to win and continue to create opportunities for other guys who may be not being given those opportunities, kind of like you highlighted in your article, Jacob. And so tonight was just an opportunity to thank Dedrick for making the shirt and to maybe bring some awareness to some guys that are out there doing a really good job. There are two of them that I know of for sure. Isaac Brown at Wichita State, who's in first place in the American in an interim situation, and Terrence Johnson, who's at Texas State. Both guys took over incredibly difficult situations. I know how hard it is to take a job over in the spring, kind of when you know you got it and got time to prepare. But I can't imagine what those guys did. I mean, Isaac Brown basically became the head coach in October and was like, hey, good luck. Just don't burn the building down while you're here. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Anybody else in that pod right there have any questions, or was it just you two?
Well, I got a follow up to the fan question. With the nature of what's happening, only 25% capacity and so on, how important, more important, is that engagement at the end of games in a situation like this?
I don't know. You probably have to ask the students. I feel so connected to these kids. I feel truly like a part of the fabric of this university because they supported me personally. They've really supported me. These kids, they see me on campus. They come up to me. They reach out to me on Twitter. I try to be engaged with them. I wish I was more visible on campus this year, but everybody I would understand, I hope, why I'm not. And so I just want to tell them, even though I can't see them around, that when they come to this building, that this is a place that they know that they appreciate it.
Well, I think
All
we're
right,
good
our
over here.
questions. All right, our next question is going to come from Chris Becker from the O'Colly. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Coach. Avery talked about how important this momentum is carrying into Bedlam. Can you kind of speak on that a little bit and, just how big this Bedlam game is going to be?
Yeah, momentum's not a word that I love. I get the sentiment, but I believe your momentum is only as good as your preparation. And so what we've got to do is understand that Saturday's game is going to be much different than today. They're probably the second hottest team in the country, considering Baylor hasn't lost at all. They played really, really well over the last, really 5 or 6 weeks. And it's going to be a battle. And so we've got to be our best in order to give ourselves a chance. We got a lot of respect for them, but we don't like them. And so we're going to go down there ready to compete at a high level.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Our next question is going to come from Cliff Brunt from the Associated Press. Go ahead, Cliff.
Coach, sorry if you've answered this already, but how significant was the run that you guys made in the second half when Cade went to the bench with 4 fouls, and just what does that say to you about your team that you were able to climb back in the game without him?
I think it's kind of a subtle thing, and obviously it doesn't happen often because he plays a lot of minutes for us. But we've had several games where we've played well with him out. He fouled out totally in the game in Lubbock in overtime, and we found a way to win. I think he found out maybe like the second possession of overtime. So we played the most critical part of that game without him. He's been in foul trouble some other games. We actually won a game without him playing at all. And we played Baylor good for 25 minutes without him dressing, the best team in the country. So I think what it says is we have a really good team. Maybe those other guys aren't high in terms of their ceiling, right? You don't think you'll see them next year in the NBA uniform, but there's some really gritty, really good college basketball players on our roster right now.
All right, our final question is going to come from Marshall Scott from Pistols Firing. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, Mike, you kind of talked about Keelan earlier. Why, I don't know how to ask this, without being it bluntly, why even put him in the game? He hasn't played much. You guys really needed, kind of a spark there. Why put him in the game?
Well, there are things first of all, it goes back to practice. If he hadn't practiced well, I don't feel the confidence, right? So it still goes back to, this is what I think people from the outside have a hard time understanding, right? Because they only watch the game, and every judgment is based on what happens in the game. I got to do this every day with these guys. And the decisions I make on game day, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but they're pretty thorough, right? And so he's practiced well. And obviously, early in the year, he started like the first 8 games. He's got ability. Just through a stretch, he didn't play well, and then he didn't practice well, and he kind of got down on himself. And he found himself at the back end of the rotation with guys that were just playing better in front of him. So his good practices opened the door so that when those guys weren't playing well, particularly to start the second half, give him a shot. And practice can carry over to the game. His energy was great. And he really, really sparked us.
And then we kind of talked about you guys taking over in overtimes. Your inexperience has shown at times this year with the turnovers, maybe missed free throws. What is it about overtimes that maybe that inexperience doesn't show there?
I think there's just a heightened sense of awareness. It's interesting because guys usually do have a great awareness at the end of games. And so overtime is just an extension of that, right? So even if you're down 8 with 4 minutes to go, guys play really hard and try to execute, and they're really aggressive. But overtime, you kind of have that same momentum, except the game starts tied. And we do this every day in practice. Obviously, you guys haven't been able to come to practice as much, but we do these 4-minute games every single day. And we create situations that they have to figure out how to win. We're down 5 with 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Cade's fouled out. We practice this stuff. I think because they practiced it, they feel prepared for those situations when it happens in a game.
And then I see he rebounded well, but he only shot one. I think he had one field goal attempt. Kind of what did you think of his return?
I thought it was good. I'm interested to see how he feels tomorrow after 2 weeks basically off. It's 2 weeks to the day that he played last. But his presence, his mere presence on the court is so valuable to us because he can cover up things that other guys just aren't aware of and make plays. But we ran a play there late in the game where we were trying to get the ball back to Cade, and they did a pretty good job of denying him. And I think it resulted in Caleb getting fouled and shooting a layup. But because I saw it, like no one else could see that right now because they haven't been through it enough yet. So his presence on the court, although it doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, invaluable.
You guys didn't shoot well from 3, but you only shot 12 of them. You guys have shot more in the past. Did you like how you guys were able to find offense outside of the 3-point shot when they weren't falling?
Yeah, I mean, I got to figure out who's teaching my guys to fall down while they're shooting threes because that's not a good strategy. It's hard to make it laying down. So we'll get that addressed in practice. But I'm glad we didn't take a ton of them today because we certainly didn't have it from outside.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Well, I know I said that would be the last question, but we got a late one in from Barry Trammell. Go ahead, Barry.
No problem. He's on mute still.
There we go. Hey, one last question. I was going to ask you about a strange lineup you used for a couple of minutes, Mike. It's the biggest lineup I assume you've ever played. You had both bigs in, and your 3 perimeter guys were Keelan, Cade, and Likely.
Yeah.
What made you think, hey, let's play just as big as we possibly can for 2 minutes?
Well, that goes to kind of your question earlier. We could play zone with that lineup and cover a lot of ground, right? And we don't have to move around as much because those guys got great length. So you get Keelan, and Ice at the top of your zone, and they're both, Ice I think has the biggest wingspan. And then you got a pretty long back line with MA and Cade on the wings in the back and Caleb in the middle. And it just kind of gives us a chance to kind of settle the drives, protect from fouling, and still be able to contest the push up, which I think has been a pretty good job of.
Did you like how they played together for that little stretch?
I don't know right now. Gotta have to go back and watch the film. Obviously, that's not an ideal lineup offensively. There's not a whole lot of space on the floor, but defensive stops were so critical tonight, and we just had to kind of grind it out on the offensive end and just make enough plays down the stretch.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Coach, so that'll do it for questions. But while we've got the group here, is there anything else that you want to say? Anything that's important to you, maybe that we missed?
I think we did a good job covering it all. Congrats to Josh Holiday and Kenny Gajewski for getting off the season to a good start, and look forward to seeing everybody out at O'Brien Stadium for the opener on Wednesday.